For over 35 years, Todd Garner has overseen blockbuster films like Con Air, Anger Management, Triple X, 13 Going on 30, and the Mortal Kombat franchise.
Why are they letting you make these movies?
Join Todd as he shares tips and stories from the front lines of producing in Hollywood.
I'm Adam Sandler.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
This is Jeff Probst.
I'm Kaylee Cuoco.
I'm Eli Roth.
This is Marlon Wayans.
Hey, it's Ed Helms.
This is Shay Mitchell.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin James, and this is The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide.
The Producer's Guide with Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
Todd Garner.
What a combination.
Welcome to the Producer's Guide podcast. I'm Todd Garner. In this episode, I have a true legend of the business, the remarkable Todd Black, one of Hollywood's most respected producers. Todd has had a remarkable career and remarkable collaborations, but none more significant than his collaboration with Denzel Washington, which began on Antoine Fisher, which not only marked the start of a powerful partnership, but also led to Denzel's directorial debut. Their remarkable collaboration continued with the Golden Globe-nominated The Great Debaters, the award-winning Fences, the Equalizer franchise, The Magnificent Seven, and Roman J. Israel Esquire. Throughout his career, Todd has produced a diverse range of films, including the critically acclaimed The Pursuit of Happiness, The Upside, The Weatherman, and 7 Pounds, among many, many others. Some of Todd's recent projects include Being the Ricardos, Emancipation, and DTF St. Louis. Looking ahead, Todd is set to produce such movies as Masters of the Universe, Madden, and the highly anticipated Social Reckoning. I wanted to have Todd on today because I wanted to talk about not only the problems of the business, which has been talked about ad nauseum, but I wanted to talk about some of the solutions that have been proposed, both from the studio side, what we can do on streaming side, and how theaters can make the experience even better. Enjoy. All right, I'm here with Todd Black again. How are you, sir?
And good, Todd. Two good first names.
Yeah, that's right. I always have you on when there's something happening in the business. Last time we spoke was right when HBO Max announced Project Popcorn. And now we're in a moment in time where it actually feels like theatrical might be working. So I figured, who better to have on to talk about theatrical than somebody who has made 17,000 movies, has $1 trillion in box office. And so I want to have you on because so much has been said about all of the problems in the business. You know, we have the pandemic and we have streaming and we have the strikes and we have consolidation and all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to talk to you today about some solutions. And there's been a lot of solutions that have been pitched and presented, including your good friend Tom Rothman at CinemaCon has pitched a few ideas. And so let's go through. I just want to go through and see if you and I can fix the movie business today.
Two Todds.
This doesn't feel unreasonable. I feel like you and I can do it. I want to talk first about streaming. Let's talk about there's obviously consolidation in the business that's happening. And the thing I always say is, yes, we're in a period of contraction compared to a massive expansion that happened when Amazon and Netflix and Apple entered the fray. Factually, we are making more content. You, 70% of it.
This year was a good year.
But you're making a ton of stuff, and there's a ton of stuff being made because of all these different outlets. And you and I are old enough to remember when it was three networks and 5 studios. This was even before,
right?
Even before the expansion of independent, right? Even before Sundance was selling movies, and then all these independents. So factually, we're making a lot more than we were back then, but there is a contraction from the huge expansion that happened. You've made movies for everybody, and you've recently been making a lot of movies with Amazon, who is an interesting hybrid of theatrical and streaming. And Ted Sarandos, when they were making a play for Warner Brothers, did say he was going to honor a 45-day window. Where do you come down on, because really today I want to focus on a theatrical movie experience. Where do you come down in terms of streaming and theatrical? Do you believe that having a movie come out theatrically first is a win-win, or is the Ted Sarandos of old and his theory that if you just provide your subscribers one way to see it, it's better for that business? Where do you come down on that whole argument?
I do. Okay, good. First of all, thank you. Second of all, great question. I don't think it's black or white. I think it is project dependent. But I will say this. Yes, it's project dependent, but it really comes down to expectations of the filmmakers. There are certain filmmakers that have expectations that their movie will only work theatrically. They cannot get their heads around people turning it on anytime in their house and not understanding, not getting the results from people going to the theater and getting box office numbers. So it's very hard. I know even with me in the beginning of streaming, I fought it. I remember I had a movie at Amazon actually in the early days. And I was like, you sure you, and it was with Viola Davis and Allison Janney and Jim Gaffigan and can't remember. And I asked Jen Salke, who was there at the time, and I can't remember who all was there. It was a while ago, but I said, people love it. And we did test it and it tested great. And it was very commercial. I said, you got to give it a theatrical release. And they're like, trust us, you will be happy that we are streaming it and you will see better numbers and we won't have to do the spend on X, Y, and Z to open it and blah, blah, blah. And I really fought it. And then I fought it at Netflix. And then I got to a place where I realized as long as I can make deals that make sense for me as the producer and make sense for the writer and the director and the actor, then they're not wrong. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs. And they're going to be, in some instances, more eyeballs. And in some instances, less eyeballs. But you do have to protect yourself and you do have to protect the players, your director, your actors, your writers, as much as you can if you do make the streamer play. Because the reality is, if it's a big hit movie on a streaming service, people need to be properly compensated, period. And that is still evolving and that is still happening. And I fight it every day. Me and my lawyer, David Bloomfield, we fight that every day because we make we don't really make arty movies. I mean, we do sometimes, and I love them, and I'm not opposed to them. But I think for the most part, I make kind of star-driven movies, and so star-driven movies get more eyeballs. They just do, wrong or right. And you need to be rewarded as the producer, or as the star, or as the director, or as the writer, when you can put those things together, streaming or not streaming, and that's the complicated part for us as producers is I think we shouldn't have to always think about, streaming versus theatrical. They're both good. People are seeing them. People are seeing our work. They're seeing him either on a big screen, and that's freaking fantastic, or they're seeing him on a big screen at home or a small screen at home. And that's freaking fantastic. It works both ways. What I think producers need to concentrate on is the fight of theatrical for sure. I think it is a fight that we're winning, actually. I was at CinemaCon for our Sorkin film and on Wednesday for our Masters of the Universe film. And it was wonderful to watch all these great reels from Sony, great CinemaCon reel and great CinemaCon reel from Amazon as well. And I heard all the studios had good reels. And to see 6,000 people in this, I mean, it's amazing. And listen, there's nothing like a theatrical experience. There's nothing like it. It's like heaven. So, and I do think it's coming back. Watch what's been happening every weekend. Watch what's going to happen with Michael. I saw Michael. It's going to be gigantic and it's fun as hell. And it is a group experience. Hopefully with Masters of the Universe, I'll plug it on June 5th. It's a group experience, hopefully Spielberg's movie, hopefully, the summer has big group experience theatrical coming out. So I do think theatrical is coming back, but I don't think it's at the expense of streaming. And I don't think streaming is necessarily now at the expense of theatrical. I think we as filmmakers have to stop fighting like, oh my God, I can only do theatrical. Or, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. We need to put our concentrations on making our scripts as good as we can, as tight as we can, as character driven as we can, so that we get a great director, so that we get a great actor, so that we can fight for theatrical. And if we can't, then make it as good of a streaming movie as you possibly can and make the best deal that you possibly can with that streaming movie. I think we spend so much time fighting and debating streaming versus theatrical. I've stopped doing that. I made a conscious effort probably 2 years ago to stop fighting streaming and theatrical. If I don't want streaming, then I will fight like hell and I will not go to a streaming service on whatever project it is. If ultimately I lose out in theatrical, then I'm okay to live with the streamer. I really am. I just want to make a good deal so that everyone is rewarded properly in success. And I do know Netflix has been talking about that. I know it's very hard for these streamers to get their heads around how do you equate, besides just a regular buyout, which we all get as, well, not we all, but a lot of people I think get as producers and actors and directors. And those buyouts are certainly nice, but do they equate to the success of how many views? No. I know Amazon's coming very close to trying to help there, and I've been a part of trying to get them to do that. So that if it hits X amount of views, you get more on your buyout. They haven't completely defined that yet. But again, I think we as producers spend so much time, theatrical, streaming. Get it as good as you can. Try it theatrically. If it doesn't sell, then go to the streamers and make the best deal you possibly can. And then go make the movie and put your efforts into making a great, successful movie, period. Whatever format it's in. I know that sounds Pollyannish, but I really mean that. I really think that that's the way to do it. We can debate this forever. And I don't think anyone's really wrong about it. I think everybody's pretty legitimate. It was interesting listening to Tom Rothman at CinemaCon. I mean, he had some great points.
We're going to get into those. Let me just real quickly break out what you said about this in kind of two pieces. The first is the compensation piece, which is in your mind, the buyout is great. And the buyout is sort of ubiquitous for everybody, whether the movie does gangbusters or one person watches it. The buyout is the buyout. Your suggestion is make the movie and have the buyout be tiered based on performance. The issue that I'm sure you've run into is there's kind of three metrics, right? There's stop and start, completion, and then overall number. So like you could have like millions of people start it and stop it. So you have to do a completion, and then you have to kind of debate what completion is, right?
Correct.
So, and then, which isn't impossible. They have the metrics to do that. And then I think what you're saying is correct. I think then there's more incentive for commercial movies like you make and I make, quite frankly, to go to streaming because you'll be compensated in success in the correct way. The other side of it is just your general feeling, because you and I don't have the data that obviously Netflix has. But there's a general idea and a feeling that I certainly have, and I don't know if you share this, but that when you market a big movie, right? I'm in the throes of marketing Mortal Kombat right now. The movie will have already come out by the time this airs, but we're everywhere. We're in the zeitgeist. There's a million different spots and a million different places to put it. And so the movie is sort of living in the, for better or for worse, living in the zeitgeist of the consumer experience. At Netflix, their argument is they have an advantage that they don't have to spend that money and have to do that heavy lifting because they have 300 million subscribers. So they can put out a trailer and potentially 300 million people, or at least the way the algorithm delivers it, the correct people see that marketing and they'll click on that movie. But what is your gut? Is your gut that, like Amazon, there's certain movies they release theatrical and there's certain movies they don't? Do you think that would work for Netflix? Do you think, just in terms of driving subscribers, treating bigger movies like events, theatrical events, like maybe War Machine would have been one, certainly Happy Gilmore 2 would have been one, put forth a real marketing campaign, put it out in theaters, let it live? Because what I would assume is you'd be no worse off as long as you recoup your marketing expense.
So remember, Amazon did not release theatrically anything till they bought MGM. So now when they're releasing theatrically, like Project Hail Mary, like my movie Masters of the Universe, those are theatrical releases through MGM / Amazon, or Amazon / MGM, whatever the order is. So, but before they had bought MGM, it was just streaming. So maybe there was a theatrical. I don't really remember. We would have to check that. But as far as I recall, everything was for Amazon Prime. So now that Courtney is there and Amazon has purchased MGM, it's actually been incredibly beneficial for Amazon. And I do wonder if Netflix would have acquired Warner Brothers, if Ted would have done a similar scenario, which I think it would have been wise to do, because you get to have your cake and you get to eat it too. So I think Amazon and Courtney and Mike Hopkins and everybody over there is actually doing an amazing job of figuring that out. And it's on a per project basis. I have this conversation with Courtney all the time and all of the people over there. We have this David O. Russell movie that we just wrapped on John Madden, The Life of John Madden, with Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale. It's fucking great. It comes out at Thanksgiving. I'm hoping we get, if not full theatrical, some theatrical, because it deserves it. And then it will kill on Amazon Prime at Thanksgiving. They've got the football games. So I want that. That's very beneficial for me and David. So I do think, to your point, Todd, you got to look at each project on its own. Project Hail Mary was based on a big book, and the scope of it was theatrical. It just was. It was a theatrical scope. When you look at Netflix's films, with a few of the exceptions that you said, they aren't necessarily scopy. I just wrapped a movie for them that comes out June 19th, a great dramatic comedy. And would I have loved it to be theatrical for our director, Leah McKendrick? Sure, but it's going to play like gangbusters on their service. It doesn't need to be theatrical. I would have loved it to have been theatrical. I want everything to be theatrical. I'm a movie producer for theater, but I now have to embrace what we have. And I have to fight for what I believe in, what's theatrical, and I have to embrace streaming and make it work the best that I can. I think it's so important to keep the train moving and not get caught in the quagmire of, yes, but it should be this, or yes, but this or that. It's on a per project basis. Make it as best as you can, whichever way you're doing it, theatrically or streaming, to present it in the best, biggest way you can. And, listen, to Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple's credit, when they are releasing streaming movies, they do a pretty damn good job of getting them open, the good and the bad. So you see Amazon right now, MGM Amazon, They used to only do like all the studios outdoor in like New York, LA, and maybe Chicago. Now they're expanding that.
Mm-hmm.
Want people to tune in. So they do want the streaming experience to be as big as possible, which means we need to fight for our back end deals more.
Right.
If we get more eyeballs, we should receive the benefits of that.
I know that it's one of the most valuable companies on the planet, and maybe that you can't take it off the table. But if you take that off the table, what are their metrics for success? Are there metrics for success on the theatrical as long as they recoup their marketing spend? Because then that's just all goodwill going to streaming. I mean, what is your vibe on the inside?
They want to recoup their P&A for sure. Everybody needs to recoup their P&A, and P&A is expensive. I mean, it's out. I mean, Todd, you remember, I've been doing this 41 years. You're younger than I am, but you've been doing it a long time.
Yep. 38.
Okay. But our beards are equally white.
That just might be stress.
Really? But I will say, you remember when P&As were like $5 million, $7 million? I mean, now it's like, oh my God, how much for a domestic campaign or a worldwide campaign? It's crazy.
It's incredible.
So, when they say that you have to recoup it, I get it. That is hard money out the door to open their investment. So I do understand that. I mean, it's hard to get your head around that somebody's spending, 80 million or 100 million or 50 million even, but you got to spend, and you got to get eyeballs seeing this stuff. Here it's coming next week, Right. I do remember this, which I'm sure you do. Do you remember when trailers or spots or whatever would come out 6 weeks early or 7 weeks early? Now it's like studios, not so much streamers. Studios are loath to blow money that early.
Oh, yeah.
They have it all for the last 2 weeks, and they bombard you.
Trust me, the Mortal Kombat fans are very vocal, and when you do not put a trailer out 6 months ahead, they think the movie is flawed somehow. Let's go to the theatrical experience, because marketing spend is going to be part of one of the things I want to talk about. So let's talk about the theatrical experience and how we think we can help, or at least talk about how to make things better. So I want to start from the studio side first. And the studio side, the two kind of easy fixes are make better movies and spend less marketing, right? Those are the two like easy, like low-hanging fruit. Everybody says, everybody new regime when they get the job is we're going to make less and we're going to make them cheaper and we're going to make them better. However, what we're seeing right now is things are working, and depending on how this is just on the creative side, and then we'll talk about marketing. Depending on how you look at it, you could either say, oh, yeah, well, look at what's working. It's IP again, it's big books, it's sequels. But that's always been the case. I do think that if you look at 2025 in terms of what Mike and Pam did and what Universal did, and now what's working, there is this mix of original content and also obviously the IP stuff. So it feels like the solve for theatrical is obviously as high a quality as you possibly can. That goes without saying. But it does feel like there is a good chance right now for a good diverse mix of big tent poles and super targeted original material that is specific and feels for an audience, rather than trying to make stuff that appeals to everybody at once.
I wish we could take A24 and Mike and Pam and combine them into one studio, because I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if you can somehow, and Don has done this a little bit, and certainly Mike and Pam have, better than most people around. I think IP is always going to be the thing. I mean, it always, there's no way around it. Unfortunately, there's just IPs getting harder and harder to find and harness. But originality, I mean, listen, look at Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Look at Ryan Coogler. I mean, so many original tales to tell. Look at Marty Supreme.
Or look at the Zendaya movie, the drama recently that came out. That's working.
$50 right now. I mean, so to your point, and it's a great point, if you can somehow, if you're running a studio now, and again, I think Mike and Pam are brilliant examples. And yes, that last movie didn't work, Maggie's movie, but okay, they're not all going to work. I mean, and good for them to take that risk. I'm sure they wish the risk was less expensive, but the reality is, I think risk taking when you and I started was much more prevalent. I think it really, really was, you could make 10, 15, 20 movies a year, 25, whatever it was, and they were a lot less expensive, but still there was so much original fare. Look at the 70s, even look at the 80s, but the 70s was just original fare. It wasn't all IP. It was incredibly wonderful director, producer driven fare that was original. Now, granted, they were made for a price, but still, it's great. I mean, Sherry Lansing, back in the day, she made these thrillers. They made a fortune. Those were Friday night great movies. Some were based on books, some weren't. Some were just, out of the writers' heads. So the risk taking is really what I think we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be, and Pam and Mike and Donna are risk takers. Tom is a risk taker, even though Tom is, so financially responsible, which is why I think he's been able to just keep going for as long as he can. But he is a risk taker. I mean, he definitely is. Look at Avatar. I mean, that was a huge risk. Huge. I mean, so many of the things that Tom has done in his career at Fox, at Searchlight, at Sony, lots of them have worked. Some of them haven't, but he is a risk taker. He's just financially more risk adverse than most people, but he is a risk taker. When you're running these studios versus the A24s, it's hard to take those risks because everything costs more money. So you have to make it a little easier for these studio executives to say yes by putting a movie star into something so that they have some insurance policy, because they no longer have the DVD afterlife policy. They have the stream. I mean, Tom has Netflix, which has really helped, but not everybody has that. So, then you look at A24. Daniel and David and Noah have done a really good job of taking risk, but for that much money. So they've figured it out. And as producers, when you go to A24, you're not going to get paid your $2.5, $3, $4 million fee, whatever it is. And you're not going to get a movie going for $100 million. You're just not. So right. Going in, and they're cool with that. So, but there's not a lot of A24s.
So why do you think, with all the new technology and all the new innovations, and we're not printing film anymore, we're not dragging around, you're not waiting for film to be reloaded, et cetera, just the simplest technological advances, and I'm not even talking about visual effects and AI and all that. Why do you think movies are so expensive?
How long do you have?
Yeah, short answer. Just top line. Why do you think?
Listen, everybody wants to be paid what they think they are worth.
What I would also add, everybody wants to be paid what they think they're worth up front.
Correct.
And where that system went off the rails was when the $20 million actor was invented. And it started with
Mark Catton and Jim.
Yeah, started with him paying Jim Carrey $7 and then paying him $20 for Cable Guy. And then Mel Gibson had to have it, and then Bruce, and then everybody had to have it. What was happening at the time, though, which saved it, was home video.
Correct.
Since home video is gone, we're still stuck with this. Yes, but this is, again, no one wants to contract, right? So back in the day, you would pay Mel Gibson $2 million because he had a big bite of the back end that could recoup, because theatrical's been depressed, right? Now people want their money up front. It's almost like a streaming play, yet you have a theatrical spend behind it. Is that the biggest reason, you think?
That's a huge reason. I mean, when you look at, I won't name names, but there's a couple major movie stars that I've worked with that took, either no money or they took $1 million, or if they're $20 million players, two in particular I'm thinking about that I work with a lot. They did a couple movies for me that were smaller, kind of arty movies that went huge and big, but they made a fortune on them because of what they took up front, and which made the movie. I mean, I could say one of the movies was Pursuit of Happiness.
Right.
I mean, Will was on fire.
Right.
And I brought in Pursuit of Happiness, and I said, you're not going to get $20 million for it. It's a homeless man story. So Amy smartly said yes, and Will smartly said, I'll only take X, but you got to give me Y if it works. And I do think, to your point, you do have to bet on yourself. It's easier for an actor to bet on themselves. I get it, because producers and writers don't make what actors make, what movie stars make, but you do kind of have to bet on yourself. And oftentimes when these movie stars do talking about what I'm talking about, they have had huge paydays. Robert Downey Jr., Denzel, I mean, Mel Gibson. I could keep going. I mean, so when you bet on yourself, it makes the movie makeable for the studio executive. And then, they're okay paying it on the back, because the movie, everybody made money. I mean, everybody did well. Tom, just to say Tom for a minute, he's very good about that with certain movies that he's made with a lot of movie stars in them. And because then he can afford to make the movie. But it's hard to get people to bet on themselves.
Well, yeah, especially because all they hear is that the theatrical's not working. So it's not the way it used to be. You used to always be able to make up your money in home video. It also would put a real clear definition line between streaming and theatrical too. If there was a real chance to make money in the back end, if we brought all the costs down, I don't want to single out actors. If we brought all the costs down, and there was a bigger chance to make more money in the back end in success, then perhaps you could really start to make different, more interesting stuff. It's always the rub of like the weirdest, most out there, strange movies. The $20 million actors are willing to work for nothing because they're trying something different. And then those movies generally don't have a huge box office. It's in a business. It would obviously be better if that was the case for big commercial movies too. But there's not a lot of trust in accounting, and there's not a lot of trust in the fact that these movies can actually pull through and make money.
Trusted accounting, because you're right about that. I mean, I know you do, and I do, and probably most of the producers looking at this, you got to hire an accountant and you got to go through it, period.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an age-old problem.
Then the B side of that in terms of making money is this marketing spend that you said is insane. It feels like if there was ever a use for AI, this would be a good one. To target, to find the people where they are. If you have a movie, like a female-driven movie that is clearly for all females, there should be a way to micro-target and get community engagement in a really specific way. It does feel like it feels like it's leaning towards that a bit. But it also still feels like just throwing the net out there and seeing what you catch. And so, when we talk about how old we are, what it used to be, you had a summer movie, you'd buy a Super Bowl spot, and then you just start pounding, and every marketing meeting I can remember was the same thing. Okay, we're going to do American Idol. We're going to do, Survivor. We're going to do Friends. We're going to do you just shotgunned your material out there and saw what sticks. Lionsgate with Fogelson has been vocal about, if you make a movie for them, they try to go after where, find the people where they are and not spend a lot of money on extras.
A24 does the same thing.
Yeah. And so I think that would help too in terms of the financial success of the business. The problem I think you run into is when these studios are making huge 4-quadrant tentpoles. Like, I'm sure, look, Disney's amazing and they're killing it, but I'm sure that if you're in a Disney marketing meeting, they're not saying like, and then we're going to specifically, they're like, fuck it, we're Disney, kaboom, and just lay it on you, right? And so you do that with 11 movies. On your 12th movie, if you have a specific niche movie, it's harder to control that spend and just it's a different muscle, I think.
Well, yeah, I think you're 100% right. Let me say this. I do think AI is going to become a part of selling movies for sure. I bet you someone like Kevin Getz with Screen Engine, I'm sure he's already figuring that out. Kevin's a very clever guy who has a very successful business. I've just watched him grow it and grow and grow it. It's incredibly impressive. And I'm sure that is what's going to happen. You're going to target it and target it and target it more and more with AI. And where are those, like the way TikTok has made the book club thing with all these women. I mean, that has made so many books. It happened with It Ends With Us. The Colleen Hoover's books blew up because of this TikTok club for women that read these books. So I think in the marketing part of it, to your point, if AI can help to target where they are through the world and go after them like the way Disney knows how to do it beautifully. I mean, they have such a specific, the target is so specific. And if AI can help that, which it will, I promise you, that's going to make a big difference. And it is going to make it cheaper. It's definitely going to make it cheaper. AI in so many ways, I mean, we're seeing that much right now. AI is going to change a million things. I don't think it's going to take away actors. I don't think it's going to take away producers. I don't think it's going to take away writers or directors. But I do think if we embrace it and watch it carefully and monitor it carefully with marketing and everything else, it's actually an amazing tool. And I think we should embrace it because it absolutely helps with marketing costs. There's no way that it can't. I mean, it helps with visual effects. I'm prepping a movie right now, and so many of the things that we're doing are it's a huge scale epic film right now. And, we're going to be using AI a lot. Look at what Ben Affleck just sold to Netflix. That's a mover. That's going to be a big thing.
Yeah. And in terms of previs and making things more efficient, AI is great in that way, in terms of like making stuff more efficient and bringing things waste out of the equation. Specifically in marketing, AI could also just get you to pivot, micro pivots in real time. Whereas now you're doing a marketing spend waiting for tracking. If there was a technology that you could target your audience, like, when you screen your movie, who's loving it, right? We always talk about that. Like, this scores a 90 with older males and 88 with younger males, and then it falls off a cliff with older females and then picks back up with younger females. Okay. And then the traditional way of spending then was, well, let's not buy The Bachelor. Right? Like, okay, that's helpful, but it's not so specific. Whereas, how do you drill down into those men, male, older and younger, and then how do you reach those younger females and just focus on those three quadrants? You could get a gross that is way bigger than you could with just a traditional giant media spend. And if we can bring those costs down, the thing you're saying is, if you can bring the pre-production costs down, which is Ben's thing, and also Ben's thing will also help you with coverage and fixing shit that you've already shot, and bring the cost down that way, and bring the cost down in production by, like you said, better deals, being mindful of betting on yourself, and then bring the cost down in post-production, making sure that we're, using AI in a responsible way that brings costs down and doesn't throw a bunch of people out of work. And then lastly, targeting the marketing. If we can bring all those costs down, theatrical should become more robust and profitable again.
It should. I don't know that it will, but it should. And let me just say this, though. And I tell people this all the time. There is no science to what we're doing. And that's the hard part of everything I just said and you just said. You could so easily shoot holes in it, and they would be legitimate holes. It is very, very irresponsible on my part if I were to say this is the way you should do all of this. Because
absolutely.
Everyone has a different way of doing it. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different wants. Every producer does, every director does, every studio person does. So, you can't, no one size fits all. And every project really is different. Every single project, big or small, streaming or not. So, you can only try to apply what works best for your project at that time, what you're doing. It doesn't fit every project and it doesn't fit every producer. So I'm really aware of that.
Oh yeah, but also just in general, if something can be more efficient, less expensive, more effectively targeted, you have a better shot of making more money. And then obviously the quality has to be there. You have to know your audience and you have to deliver a quality product to that audience. So on the studio side, I think those are things that we can be doing. We're not helpless in this situation. Because the other thing I've talked about recently is there was a feeling of helplessness because there was a feeling like we were doing everything right and it still wasn't working. That was terrifying. And there was a number of factors at play there. But now it does feel like we're doing a lot right and it is working better than we expected, which is great because the more we can do things correctly and do things right, and if that follows suit, that then you get a equal reaction, positive reaction to that doing things right, then that will give people confidence and make people also more willing to take risk.
Let me ask you a question. If somebody said to you, Todd, I want you to go run a studio now. Okay, I want you to go be the green light man. Tell me what you would do right now.
I have said this in number of times. I still think the slate notion works. And I think it works for two reasons. And what I mean by that is when I was a president of production, we had a slate, and your slate was generally by month, and there was a type of movie that went in each month. And two things happened. One, on one side, your executives and your producers and everybody knew the kind of movies you needed, right? It wasn't some amorphous thing of like, we want big tentpole IP. We want theatrical experiences. We want undeniable. Like, it's just so amorphous, those ideas. When you needed a R-rated teen comedy for March, everybody knew that. And if no one had it, somebody would go, fuck it, I'm going to go write one. And I'm going to try to, right? Because everybody seems to want R-rated teen comedies, and good comedy writers would write those and you would have it. That was one side. The other side of it is the audience knew what to expect. You knew when Easter came around, you were going to have a family movie, generally a Pixar movie or like a, a family movie like Tom Rothman made this thing with Nate Bargatze. That would have felt like an April movie. I know it's coming out in June, but that kind of movie where you're with your family, it's Easter, everybody's kind of together. You kind of showed the audience what kind of movie was coming out then. In fact, what's interesting is this year, 2026, is playing out like that.
Yeah, it is. I saw that at CinemaCon. That's true.
Yeah, like the dates are matching up, right? You have Michael coming out, which is a big all audience movie, huge IP, nostalgia, all ages. And then you have Prada, very first and foremost targeted at women and people that love fashion and love that movie. And then you have Mortal Kombat, which is obviously for guys and action movies. Then you got a couple weeks, then you got an all audience Grogu. It's like, that's the way it always lined up. We come out May 8th. That was always the place you put your not huge battleships. Like you always knew June, July, August was going to be a bloodbath because you had to have, like, that's where we put Armageddon.
Back to that now. It's definitely coming back to that now.
That's what I'm saying. So for me, if I was doing it, I would look back historically and say, oh, because then what happened was Marvel came in and there was so much movies they were making. Kevin just went, I think I'm going to start the summer in March, and then I'm going to take May, and then I'm going to take July 4th, and then I'm going to take December, and so everybody then scrambled to just get away from those movies as opposed to figuring out what's the right date. You got to kind of meet the audience where they are emotionally too. For me, I would be less worried about like quote unquote, what's theatrical and what's not. I would just look, is this a good movie? Is this a good story? Do I think there's an audience for it? What's the right price? How much audience do I think is there? And put it in the right date and go for it. That's what I would do.
I think it's an impossible job. I think Mike and Pam have done the best job ever done. I mean, all these guys, they have impossible jobs.
It's a really hard job, and it's a really daunting job right now because there's so much data that there's so much input. The problem with that is you can only look backwards. So there's a lot of backwards looking, trying to figure out what to go forward. And that was never the way the movie business was set up.
Let me ask you a question. Like for me, my whole thing is gut check. And the older I get, I have less time because I'm older. So I want to really make sure whatever I say yes to, whatever writer or whatever project I say yes to, I do a gut check. I'm like, can I get this made? Do I know the road to getting it made? Because I know what that takes. And am I clear the quadrant? 2, 1 quadrant, 3 quadrant, 4. Am I clear on the quadrant? And is my gut telling me I can get it made? And I think what's missing, and I'm curious what you think, I think what's missing today is there are a number of people that don't go by gut check anymore. They go by analysis. Analysis, you can fight analysis at every turn as far as I'm concerned. So the gut check thing, I think, is becoming less and less, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, well, it's analysis and opinion, right? So your gut is different than my gut, which is different than the person sitting next to us's gut. And the problem is all those guts are sitting in a room greenlighting movies. So if you have, I don't even know how big these rooms are, 10, let's conservatively say 10 people in a room. Everybody's gut's telling them something different. So what you always do is regress to the mean. You always go to the lowest common denominator, which is what's the thing that's obviously going to work. And where everybody started to panic is for whatever reason, and I think it's a myriad of reasons, those things stopped working. And then everybody went, oh shit. And now I think that because we're finally through the pandemic, development is kind of caught up, we're past the strike. I think that people are going to start going, oh, that worked. Great. Okay, can we take Project Hail Mary and how can that blossom into other things that is not specific to a big book starring Ryan Gosling that was perfectly made, feel good? Can you take pieces of that and say, oh, this is a feel good, all audience, hopeful movie in a totally different genre, but because Hail Mary worked, can we expand it to this? That's my hope.
Yeah. Definitely. Look at what Mike and Pam did with Sinners. I mean, that was a gut. They wanted to make it. Look at Jamie and Zach picked up Sean Heater's movie that won the Academy Award a couple of years ago with the Deaf family. That worked for the public and it won the Academy Award for Best Picture. So that's a gut check for sure. I do think you do have to use metrics and analysis for sure. I don't think you could throw that out. But I do think you also have to go, I got to believe in this one. I love it. I'm going to do everything I can to make it work theatrically or make it work on a streaming service.
Well, it starts with you. It starts with you being passionate, your gut check. And then you have to find an executive that bonds with you. And then the two of you have to kind of start with the passion and push that passion through. That's where it starts. If you don't have it from the beginning, it's never going to work. Okay, so let's now go to the theater side, the theater owner side, which is your friend Tom Rothman. He said a number of things, and so I want to kind of walk through some of the things one by one, get your opinion on them, just to see where you land on these things. The first is, and these are not necessarily all the things Tom Rothman said, but the first kind of general thing is improve the theatrical experience. And I think a lot of theaters already have upgraded seating. They're doing IMAX. They're doing that kind of things, improving sight lines and sound and then all that. And then, obviously the popcorn buckets have been a huge success. And then Tom mentioned less pre-show ads. So where do you come down on the theatrical experience as a whole as somebody who goes to a lot of movies and makes a lot of movies?
Okay, so first of all, I'm sitting in my offices at Sony. Tom's building is right next door.
Don't talk too loud.
I agree with Tom Rothman wholeheartedly, and I was cheering loudly in that theater last Monday night during CinemaCon because he's right. There's too many freaking ads. I'll show up. I'll go to a movie with my kid or my wife or whoever, and I know I don't have to get there. If the movie's for 7:30, I don't have to get there till 7:45 or 7:50 because they show so many ads that I am not interested in. Now, I understand it's a business. I get it. It's called show business. So I get the business part of it. However, I don't want to sit through that. I don't need to sit through that at home when I put on Amazon Prime or Apple or Netflix. The movie starts, period. Hit the button, go. And if I want to fast forward, I can. So I do not want to sit through 50 ads and then my movie that was supposed to start at 7:30 starts at 7:50. So that if I had a babysitter, which my kids are grown, I have to account for that longer. I have to pay for more parking in the mall, on and on and on. It has a knockdown effect. So Tom is right about that. He is 100% right. Don't give me all those ads. Please say no. As much as you can. I understand the business part. I understand theater owners need to make money, not just from popcorn. I get it. So I'm not saying none, but I'm saying weigh it out for the audience, for the theater payer. I think it's really important. I think Tom was spot on about that.
And their point back to him was, okay, well, how do we make up that ad revenue that we're losing if we don't show those ads? I would say, and what you're suggesting is, if you really, it's like the Super Bowl. If you really curated those ads,
Correct.
Shrunk down that experience where you, babysitter, parking, came in and it's half the time of the experience now.
And the ads are entertaining.
Then if there was a way to measure the experience being uplifted 20% just from that, then you may have the confidence as a theater owner to say, fine, we're going to have to charge a little bit more, explain to the people who you're advertising, listen, we're seeing a 20% uptick. You're going to get 20% more eyeballs on this. We've got to raise these prices 20% because we can't have 40 ads because we're actually driving people from the theater and it's not helping any of us.
I think that's critical. And again, I don't think theater owners should say no to ads. I get they need it's a business. It is show business. Everybody needs to make some money in order to keep going. So I'm not saying no to the ads. And Tom wasn't saying no to the ads. Tom was saying less ads.
Yeah, for sure.
Described it, Todd, is spot on.
And the thing also that's a little disingenuous from the theater owner's perspective is a new piece of revenue has been this popcorn bucket phenomenon that they're making a lot of money from in partnership with the studios that are creating the product that are allowing them to sell these popcorn buckets. So there is a new measure of revenue there. And I know the business has been depressed, but
we have it on Masters of the Universe. We have Skeletor popcorn buckets that people are freaking out about. I mean, they're going to be a big thing. Yeah, there you go. I love it.
my Shao Kahn popcorn bucket. Okay, so less pre-show ads, upgrading the seating, sightlines, all that.
And I do think theaters are doing that more so, by the way, too.
I do so. I absolutely, and I think that also because look, we're in IMAX and we're in the FX and all the different formats. Also, what Ryan Coogler did on Sinners was fucking genius, showing the audience the different formats, which made that experience special because the technology of it, people understood and was like, holy shit, I want to see it in IMAX and 70 and Prime and all these different formats. That the more we can educate the audience on why it's different than just seeing, because the other fucking thing that drives me crazy is when people go, I have a 50-inch TV at my house. It's exactly the same. Bullshit. It's not even close to the same as being in a theater, especially if
let me add to what you're saying. I completely agree with you. 1,000,000,000% agree with you. And I think we need to support IMAX even more. People love IMAX. People love
it's huge.
And it brings in, it's really helps your bottom line. And we do not have enough IMAX theaters. And I think we have to support, I think the studios and the filmmakers, and Jim Cameron has done it, Chris Nolan has done it, Ryan Coogler has done it, but we need to get behind IMAX a lot fucking more.
And by the way, Disney is now, because Disney missed out on a bunch of IMAX screens because it was like a pretty big log jam of movies competing for those screens. They've announced this, they've taken over this Prime and rebranded it, whatever they rebranded, I can't remember. But if there was a new technology that rivaled IMAX, I mean, not quite like the Sphere, but I'm saying a new technology that made it great. We need to support all of those new technologies because that really made centers like, oh, I want to see it in 70. I want to see it in Prime. I want to see it in IMAX. We need to educate the audience more on the experience.
Jim Cameron and Spielberg and Ryan Coogler and a couple of these and Chris Nolan, we've all got to get in line with them.
The more we can do that and show the audience the dynamic sound, and it's just look, the Sphere is making so much money because you go there and it's like nothing you can't get it at home. So we need to support, because there was a feeling when as theaters expanded to such a huge amount, now it's contracting and people are panicking because of the contraction. But those theaters, I've been in theaters that were like 12 seats and a screen that was as big as my TV. I mean, it got so crazy with how many screens there were, and 25 seats, 30 seats. The more we can keep the big experience and the sound is amazing, the better off and more differentiating it'll be than your great system at home.
Yeah.
The second piece of it is the window release strategy, is longer windows. Obviously, longer windows helps. Look, if there was never streaming, it would be the best thing in the world for the theatrical business. So the longer we can keep movies in theaters, obviously, the better. And Spielberg wants 120, and Universal just committed to 45, right? And 45 seems to be the easy commitment. After there was a moment where 17 was the time, and then I think Universal's a little bit longer than that, and Disney's a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, Courtney just expanded Project Hail Mary. She's keeping it in the theaters longer.
She's keeping it in the theaters. That's what I was going to say. There's interesting two sides to this argument. One is, if you had dynamic window releasing, meaning when your movie finally dipped below 300 theaters, then that's when it started, and you were 20 days after that, whatever it is. So that because the two sides of it is, in the studio side, you want to kind of keep your marketing spend in one clump. You don't want to have too long go by where you have to reignite it for your pay one. So you try to keep those windows, the marketing spend window, tight. There was a pitch at one point where once you dip below 300 theaters, the clock would start ticking, and then you would have X number of days before the movie came out. On the flip side of that, the theater owner said, well, then you're still training the audience not to come, so the movie comes quicker on streaming. So there is those two sides of it. Where do you come down on the windows?
I think we have to reach in the audience, period. I think we have to keep movies in theaters longer, period. We lost it. And then streaming took over and bit us in the ass so big time. And I think you used the perfect word. We have to retrain. And the only way to retrain is to have a longer window, period. And if the movie has one person in the theater, it does. But it's the only way we could say to the audience, if you really want to go see this in the next, that all your friends are loving, you got to go see it while it's in the theaters, because it's not going to come into your living room for another 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, whatever. And I think if the movies, if we could somehow get back to that, it's going to be a success for everyone involved. These short windows have hurt everybody. They just have. And I understand it's dollars and cents. I get it. But it really has affected the audience, because now it's just very, it's a very lackadaisical, we'll wait for it to come here. But if they have to wait too long, then that forces them to, hey, I want to go see that. It becomes an event. We have to re-eventize it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, it goes hand in hand with the theatrical experience too.
For sure.
And also, we're reframing the idea of the theatrical experience is probably better than training the audience. Where we really fucked ourselves was with comedy, because we have sort of reframed the audience like It's okay. Sit in your house by yourself and laugh. That is
Comedy
nice.
and thrillers and scary movies also.
Well, scary movies less because people do not want to be in their house by themselves necessarily getting the shit scared out of them. But I will say, seeing a comedy in a theater with 200 people as opposed to sitting in your house, same comedy, I would conservatively guess is 10 times less fun.
I agree.
And we have not put enough energy into reminding the audience, because I've done it. Listen, I preview every single one of my comedies and have the best time. And then usually a couple of years later, revisit it by myself. Nowhere close to as fun. And so it'd be great to reframe the audience and remind them, by the way, they understand it emotionally because they're going to live comedy in droves.
Yeah.
We need to reframe to remind the audience how much fun it is to be in a communal experience with a great sound and a great
100% right. But I will say this also, same with horror films. Horror films are a group experience. You like, as much as you want to be, to be jumping with a full audience, there's nothing more fun.
The scares are 10 times scarier because everyone's screaming.
A lot of these people that are making those films, they know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing I want to talk about, I recently got a incoming call from a person who runs the movie studio who was listening to my podcast with Lorenzo and said, "You didn't talk about dynamic pricing." I'm like, okay, so let's talk about dynamic pricing. This is a big issue that a lot of people are talking about, which is, look, airlines do it, right? Ticket costs fluctuate based on various factors. It can include, time of day of the week, proximity to the screening date. Like there's a million ways you could do dynamic pricing. Speaking of AI, it could do it like this. And then the other thing is, you could use AI or any sort of data analytics to track theaters and adjust the price in real time, right? You buy early, it's less or more to get the premium seats, whatever. Where do you come down in dynamic pricing for movies?
I don't believe in it.
Okay. How come?
I think with airlines, you knew first class, you knew business class, you knew coach. That was built in from 100 years ago. So there was no, you just knew that going in. Oh, I want more legroom. I want to be served a meal. I don't want to be the cattle section. So I'm going to pay more money. With theaters, the thing that kind of changed all that was iPick of more of a lounge feel. So you could go to a premium theater and you could pay for that. So do you want to call that dynamic pricing? I guess. And they still have that, although iPick and Westwood just closed, which is a bummer. But I don't think, you can reserve seats. But my feeling is you cannot reframe it for an audience at this point. Not when they have their 100-inch screen at home and they're going to say, screw that. I'm not doing that. So you've got to make it easy and equivalent for everybody. So I don't believe in dynamic pricing.
Even though like on a Tuesday, we have a big pop because movies are cheaper.
Yes. And then that works. And Canada, it really works. Sure. I get that. Senior citizen, I get.
But could you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday is more expensive?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, I just think audiences are smart, and I think it's bullshit. I don't think you want to trick them. I think you say, this is what it is. If you want to go to a fancy theater, you're going to pay more money, and you get to order from your chair and get food brought to you, and they still have those.
Right.
And otherwise, no, it's $20, and that's what it is. And go get your popcorn for another 20 and whatever.
And the last thing I will say is, what if there was some sort of algorithm that said, okay, Michael, opening weekend, obviously this movie's going to make $1 billion, but opening weekend, tickets are $60 a piece opening weekend. And then they'll slide down kind of like how Broadway works. Would you think that would work?
Do I think it would work? To a point, sure. Like with a Chris Nolan movie, a Michael movie, a Jim Cameron movie, sure. And then what about all the rest of the movies?
Right.
Those are events. So sure. Do I think we should do it? No.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that was all of my solutions. Do you have any other solutions, Todd Black, that you could think of that we could somehow help the business?
solution is the same solution that has happened since movies have started, which make your scripts your priority over everything you're doing, over every single thing that you do as a producer. Work your scripts, shut your door, work with your writers in a room through 100 freaking rewrites to get your scripts great, because great scripts get great directors, get great actors, get more money, get theatrical or streaming. It's just, that's where it all starts. Period.
I always end the podcast with a best memory on set, but that doesn't seem appropriate here. So I'm going to ask you, best memory from CinemaCon.
When we had our, two memories. When we showed our Sorkin Social Reckoning trailer, and they saw Jeremy Strong as Mark Zuckerberg for the first time, you could feel the whole theater, and that was fun. I was sitting in the theater. And then Wednesday night, when we showed Masters of the Universe, and we brought Travis Knight and our actors out who play He-Man and Tila, and we gave 6,000 foam rubber swords out, and we did I Have the Power and all the lights. And I don't know if you were there, but it was wild, and it was
awesome.
Really fun. It was really just a wild, fun experience.
Look, man, that's the theatrical experience should be. It should be an event.
Yeah.
Well, all right, brother. Thank you. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Really fun. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of The Producer's Guide. If you're a fan of this podcast, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. And if you got any questions about producing, send me a DM on X at Todd_Garner. I want to thank my producer, Steve Delamater. And until next week, I'm Todd Garner. See you then.